General Hospital spoilers for the next 2 weeks, from May 19th to May 30th. Reveal that the custody battle over Wiley and Amelia is gradually becoming the new central conflict in Port Charles, a place where already fragile family relationships are now being pushed to the brink of complete breakdown by overlapping legal strategies, emotional entanglements, and long unhealed wounds. One of the most notable developments is that Rick, Willow, and Drew have officially entered the strategic phase of this battle. No more avoidance, no more compromise. They are now forced to confront the very forces they once hesitated to challenge: Carly, Sonny, and even Michael. This shift has transformed what was once a deeply personal custody case into an all-out war, where every move, every testimony, and every public appearance carries the weight of a political and emotional assault. After a long time being caught between expectations and the subtly ruthless control from Carly, Willow is now forced to face reality. If she doesn't take action, her rights as a mother and her say over Wiley and Amelia's future will no longer be hers. Willow once dreamed of a family where everyone could raise the children together, believing that despite their differences, they could prioritize the children's well-being. But she has come to realize that was only an illusion, because the line between family affection and control in the Corinthos Quartermain household is always blurred. And now that Michael is gradually pulling back, no longer the supportive figure he once was, and Carly is becoming increasingly aggressive and calculating, Willow knows she can no longer hesitate. Rick, once known for his sharp mind, cold demeanor, and ability to maneuver through the toughest legal cases, has entered the fray with a no-holds-barred attitude. More than just Willow's legal representative, Rick is silently constructing an entire strategic system, coordinating witnesses, managing media narratives, and most importantly, mentally preparing Willow to step up and reclaim the control she lost long ago. Rick understands that this isn't just a legal battle, it's a power struggle between two worlds. A mother trying to protect her children's emotional stability, and a family accustomed to manipulating every decision from the shadows. To win, more than just law is needed. It takes clarity, resilience, and a razor-sharp strategy. Meanwhile, Drew is being pushed into the most dangerous neutral zone. He can't deny his feelings for Willow, whom he once promised to protect at all costs, but at the same time, he's tangled in a complicated relationship with Carly, who opposes all legal efforts to limit her access to the children. Drew doesn't want to be a traitor, but he also can't remain a silent bystander. His indecision is becoming the weak point in the defense Rick is building, and if he doesn't quickly choose a side, the entire legal team may suffer the consequences. One of the most haunting and growing fears is the realization that everything has spiraled out of control. Wiley and Amelia, two children who should be nurtured in peace, are now caught in the middle of a war they never chose. They've become subjects of accusations, evidence, and tense legal arguments, where love is suffocated by law, and their smiles are dissected in psychological reports. This is what brings silent pain to Willow, Rick, and even Drew, despite their differing stances, that if they fail, it won't just be a legal loss, but a failure to protect the souls of children silently suffering. Things are reaching a boiling point as Carly begins lobbying to sway public opinion, garnering support from powerful figures in town to craft the image of a stable family, one she believes is best for Wiley and Amelia. But Rick is not standing by. He is quietly gathering evidence to show Carly's controlling behavior is unbalanced, including expert reports on the psychological impact on children torn between two opposing power systems. As the legal files grow, as closed-door hearings are held, and as the media starts hinting at a large-scale custody war, all of Port Charles begins to sense one thing. One of the heaviest confrontations is about to erupt. A major shift is underway. No one can rely on past relationships, fond memories, or sympathy to change the game anymore. This is a battle where reason must triumph over emotion, where strategy must outmaneuver trust. Willow, Rick, and Drew, each for their own reasons, understand that if Carly is allowed to continue manipulating things, if the old system is allowed to repeat itself, then not only will they lose their parental rights, but Wiley and Amelia will lose their childhood, and their belief in the very idea of family. One of the most intense legal battles in Port Charles history is quietly taking shape, and once it explodes, none of them will emerge unscathed. Jason just received a shocking phone call amid the brewing turmoil in Port Charles, and in an instant, the quiet world he had tried so hard to preserve was shattered. The call came from an anonymous source but delivered irrefutable information. The poisoning of Sunny in Los Angeles is no longer a theory, it's confirmed. And the perpetrator is no longer a distant shadow but someone deeply connected to the emerging underworld taking shape around the city. This truth not only stunned Jason, but also triggered a chain reaction he never anticipated, a sequence of events that would force him to return to his primal self, to fight, to hunt, and to show no mercy. Spinelli and Brick, longtime behind-the-scenes allies of Jason, are now stepping into the center of the investigation in roles far beyond simple support. Spinelli, using covert code and a dense surveillance network, has confirmed the identity of a long-forgotten figure, someone whose name briefly surfaced in a war years ago, then vanished without a trace. Brick, leveraging his still-active ties to the international criminal world, has traced a shady financial trail from a rising West Coast organization to secret transactions involving an extremely toxic substance, the one used to poison Sunny. These puzzle pieces, when put together, paint not just a picture of a sinister scheme, but clear proof that the attack has been in motion for some time, just waiting for Sunny's moment of vulnerability to strike. Jason, who has deliberately kept his distance from personal vendettas since his return, now has no choice but to become his old self again, a man willing to do whatever it takes to protect his own. Unafraid to use force to restore order when all else has slipped out of control. But this time, something is different. This is no longer just Jason and Sunny's battle, it's a symbolic purge, where the enemy no longer hides in the shadows but steps out with arrogant defiance, challenging the very code Jason once lived by. And that's what pushes Jason into an unbounded state, a kind of internal combustion where loyalty, duty, and personal fury merge into an unstoppable force. One of the most unhinged changes is how Jason responds. He doesn't call a meeting. He doesn't warn Sunny. Instead, he acts alone, rebuilding his old network, reigniting alliances he once severed, seeking support across the entire nation, from East Coast to West. Calls are made in the dead of night. Encrypted packets are sent. People who had been underground for years suddenly receive orders. All are focused on one objective: find the person who dared attack Sunny and cut off their entire supply chain before Port Charles is dragged into a shadow war greater than anything it has ever seen. Jason's approach this time is no longer defensive, it's full-scale offense. That phone call didn't just deliver information, it reactivated Jason's survival instinct, his combat drive, and his thirst for vengeance, elements he had once buried after walking away. Now, all emotional shields are down. Jason no longer cares about rules, public opinion, or political consequences. The only things that matter now are truth and action, two forces that will guide his every move from this point on. A radical transformation is happening. A rebirth. A shift from darkness into righteous fury. The attack Jason is about to launch is not just revenge for Sunny, it's a message to all those lurking in the shadows who think Jason Morgan is no longer a threat. He will prove that though he stepped back, he never lost the power to destroy. And this time, he won't stop until the entire poisoning network is eradicated, no matter the cost to what remains of his humanity. Port Charles is bracing for an earthquake, and Jason is the epicenter. One of the most comprehensive and relentless counterattacks is being planned, and once it begins, not even Jason will be able to turn back. Cody and Lulu are heading toward one of the most intense turning points they've ever faced, uncovering the entire truth behind the lie that Brooke Lynn has hidden for over 2 decades. The story of Joe's true identity is no longer a vague mystery lurking in the shadows, it's becoming the epicenter of a growing storm of public scrutiny in Port Charles. One of the clearest changes is that those who once stayed silent are now starting to speak up, and Cody and Lulu are leading the charge, not just to uncover the truth, but to deliver justice to a young man who has lived his entire life under a false identity. Lulu, guided by her maternal instincts and a heart that is slowly healing after a long coma, can no longer stay silent knowing the truth about Gio might be buried once again. She once loved Dante and trusted the story Brooke Lynn had told, but the details Cody has revealed, the evidence he has gathered through his underground network, have opened Lulu's eyes to a carefully constructed deception. And worst of all is the realization that Gio, the boy she believed to be an adopted son, the child she raised with all her love, may in fact be her own biological child. Robbed of his rightful identity by those closest to her, Cody, torn by the pain of not knowing he may have lost the right to be a father, is now a man with nothing left to lose. The possibility that Gio is his biological son doesn't frighten Cody, it only strengthens his resolve to bring the truth to light. He isn't acting out of vengeance, but from love and responsibility, qualities he was never given the chance to express to Gio. And now, with every sign pointing to Brooke Lynn falsifying documents, leveraging her relationship with Lois to bury the truth, and even listing Dante as the father to maintain control, Cody sees no other option but to act. He must do what is right, for Gio, for Lulu, and for his own conscience. This new reckoning isn't just unfolding within Cody and Lulu, it's shaking the very structure of the interconnected families involved. Gio is no longer just a young man. He is being pulled into the heart of a complex web of lies, ruthless decisions, and the fear of abandonment. His true identity, once hidden under the guise of what's best for everyone, is now an emotional bomb that no one involved can avoid. The pressure is mounting on Joe's shoulders as he begins to feel that everything he once believed about himself may not be true. And that's the deepest betrayal of all. Being deceived not by enemies, but by the very people he called family. Port Charles has never seen an emotional explosion quite like this. When Cody and Lulu present their evidence to the public, every assumption, every relationship, every image of the ideal family will come crashing down in an instant. Brooke Lynn, once seen as the brave mother protecting her child at all costs, will be exposed as a deceiver, a manipulator who controlled her son's life through lies. Dante, the seemingly perfect, honorable man, will have to face the truth that he's lived a lie he never even knew about. Lois, the mother who had stayed on the sidelines, will be pulled back into the fray, forced to confront her role in sustaining a decades-long charade. An explosive shift is now inevitable. Whispers in hospital hallways, suspicious glances at the Metro court, tense encounters in lawyers' offices, all are converging on one point: the truth is about to come out, and no one can stop it anymore. When Cody and Lulu finally bring the truth into the light, an emotional earthquake will ripple through not only the reputations of those who lived in lies but also through Port Charles itself, forcing everyone to reconsider what truly makes a family: blood, love, or honesty. And when that moment comes, Gio, who had lived in a carefully built comfort zone, will face a choice: forgive or cut ties, accept or rebel. Remain a controlled son or become a man who rewrites his own story. A new chapter is opening, not just for Gio, but for an entire town that thought it already knew everything. But in Port Charles, the truth is always the last thing to be revealed, and once it is, no one remains the same. Anna is closer than ever to a new battle, not one fought with weapons like her old WSB missions, but a covert, strategic, and high-risk war where truth and trust are the most fragile currencies. After all the pain, loss, and betrayal she has endured, Anna is no longer the vulnerable woman she once was. Now, she is the embodiment of cold determination, an emotional machine sharpened by experience and sorrow. And that resolve is pushing her to the center of an unprecedented power realignment in Port Charles, where one name stands out as her clearest target: Sidwell. Sidwell is not just a mysterious figure with financial tentacles reaching across the city. He's expanding his influence through channels Anna suspects are illegal, from secret investments in charities and manipulation of community funds to quietly infiltrating the legal system by recruiting key figures to his side. Anna has observed him from a distance, offered quiet warnings, and probed through official channels, but all she sees now is a new power structure silently rising. And if it's not stopped, it will consume everything Port Charles has tried to protect. Yet the true danger isn't Sidwell, it's coming from within Anna's own circle. Mac and Felicia, longtime allies she once believed would always stand with her, are now making their own adjustments, harboring their own concerns, and, most disturbingly, beginning to control the situation in their own ways. Their strong-handed involvement is creating a blurry line between support and manipulation, between collaboration and opposition. Anna feels clearly that she no longer has the freedom to act as she once did. Every step she takes, every decision she makes, is monitored, questioned, or outright blocked if it doesn't align with the plan Mac is implementing. Felicia, with a mother's heart and the sharp instincts of someone who's walked through darkness, seems to be questioning Anna's clarity and motives. This newly imposed control from people she once trusted is not only suffocating, it's pushing Anna into a prolonged state of unease. A kind of internal torment as her trust is tested from within. Anna knows she can't take on Sidwell alone, but she also can't fight if she's being held back. This suffocating feeling is pushing her into a combative state she's never experienced before, a silent, fierce resistance where she begins to remove every obstacle in her path, even if that means cutting off her closest relationships. The deeper Anna goes into the investigation, the more she realizes Sidwell isn't acting alone. He has connections everywhere, from financial institutions to security agencies. The recordings, transaction data, and clues she once thought were enough are now just the tip of an enormous iceberg. Anna is forced to go deeper, dig further, and do it alone. The more she shares, the greater the risk of betrayal. And that, above all, proves just how much control Port Charles is losing. When those who once formed the pillars of justice begin to distrust each other, when trust fragments and truth becomes the most dangerous thing to possess, disaster is no longer a possibility, it becomes a certainty. Anna is walking a path with no way back. With Sidwell as her main target, with Mac and Felicia becoming both enablers and inhibitors. With her allies growing distant and the threats increasingly clear, she must choose between becoming a stabilizer or a disruptor, someone who tears down the existing order to set things right again. But the clearest truth of all is this: Anna is out of time. And when the moment of confrontation arrives, when the final evidence is laid bare, Port Charles will no longer be at peace. Because then, a battle with no moral boundaries will erupt, and Anna, once again, will be the one leading it, no matter the cost. Emma is slowly being drawn into a dangerous spiral of emotions and ambition, where wounded pride is pushing her to the edge of an explosive breakdown. Jocelyn's sudden appointment as a research assistant instead of her is not just a blow to her academic or career aspirations, it's a deep wound to her ego. One that had been carefully nurtured by family legacy, personal achievements, and high expectations. She cannot accept it as an objective choice. She refuses to believe that anyone, especially Jocelyn, could be more valued in a field to which she has devoted her heart and mind. And from that moment on, silently, Emma begins plotting her revenge, not loud or impulsive, but cold, calculated, and strategic. Emma's revenge is not the kind born of emotional outbursts, but a long-suppressed internal reaction where contempt and jealousy become weapons. She starts gathering intel, monitoring schedules, digging into academic records, personal relationships. Emma knows Jocelyn is more than just a student, she's being secretly backed by the WSB for a classified project, and that changes everything. What began as a personal rivalry has now become a high-level threat. Because if Emma disturbs the hidden structure the WSB is protecting, the game will no longer be between two young women, it will be a showdown between a rogue individual and an organization with absolute power to control, manipulate, and eliminate any perceived threat. And, just as she predicted, the WSB begins to take notice. They cannot allow an unstable link like Emma to disrupt a critical operation they've invested in through Jocelyn. Internal reports are filed. Surveillance calls are made. A top-secret dossier is opened with a single name, Emma. This is no longer about school or a research position. It has escalated into a confrontation between protected power and a retaliation deemed uncontrollable. And from that moment, a new, terrifying trait in Emma emerges, the once promising, intelligent, meticulous girl is now a subject of surveillance by an international intelligence agency, simply because her personal grudge has gone too far. But Emma doesn't back down. In fact, she becomes even more dangerous. The presence of the WSB doesn't scare her, it only fuels her desire to prove she cannot be silenced. She begins identifying vulnerabilities in the system Jocelyn uses to run her project, from internal emails, off-the-record meetings, to secret contacts with Vaughn, the covert supervisor. Emma realizes that even releasing a small piece of this information could cripple the project, and severely damage the reputations of Jocelyn, Vaughn, and even the WSB. This is no longer just revenge. It's a survival game, where whoever holds the secrets holds the knife. Then comes the next shock. Emma is summoned by the WSB, not to be threatened, but warned. They give her a choice: back off. Stay silent and continue her life as a prestigious student, or keep digging and become a target for destruction. The meeting doesn't happen in an interrogation room, but at a scientific conference, where every threat is cloaked in polite language. But Emma understands perfectly, if she crosses the line, she won't just lose her name, she'll be erased. Both from her academic future and her real life. This moment becomes one of the most shocking events ever seen in Port Charles's academic circles. People start whispering about the real connection between Emma and Jocelyn. Some believe Emma is jealous, others suspect she's uncovered something no one dares to speak aloud. But everyone senses one thing clearly: the battle between them is no longer about a job title, it's a real war. A war of pride, of honor. Of survival in a world where secrets can destroy everything good. And now, as the WSB begins deploying new layers of control, as Emma refuses to back down and reorganizes her strategy from within. As Jocelyn keeps walking forward with the backing of a top-secret organization, one thing is undeniable: a new war has begun. No one knows who will win. But one thing is certain: neither Emma nor Jocelyn will ever be just ordinary girls again. They are now polar opposites in a battle where the loser risks losing everything, and the winner will pay a price just as steep. Port Charles is about to witness a stormy, open-ended conclusion.